Hey kids! So today I'm going to show you how to change your oil. In one of my earliest videos I said I wasn't going to show you how to change your oil because it's not something I normally do myself. I just don't think it's a good use of my time, but enough people asked me how to do it, so I thought I'll at least walk you through it. And as I did it, I've already done it. As I did it, it reminded me why I don't do it, because there's a lot to it, and the price by the time you buy the filter, because you need filter, you need the oil, you need the something to catch it in. It's just not. I don't think it's a good use of my time, but it is. There is a sense of accomplishment when you're done, so I don't want to take that away from you. So I thought I'd at least just show you how to do it. But you can usually find an oil change for $30 or $40. Again, you just got to be careful when you go in there, because they a lot of times will try to get you to buy oh, you need an air filter, and you need wipers, and you need a brake light, and pretty soon you've spent $150 to $200. And if you just go there for the oil change, just get the oil change and then take care of the other stuff later. So anyway, but before I do that, I have a dad joke for you. Well, actually, you know what? It's a joke about oil, but I didn't think I should tell it to you because it was a little too crude. So anyway, let's get started. So underneath your car, you're going to need to find the oil pan, and there's this nut right here that's going to need to be loosened so that you can drain the oil out, okay? It's a little hard to get a good video shot of this. I'll try to pull back and try to find another way to get a good angle, but that's the nut, and we're going to have to get something to catch the oil once we loosen this nut, okay? Okay, so I'm going to have to loosen this nut right there and have it drain into that pan. Okay, so you want to compensate a little bit by making sure the pan's kind of out from it, because it's going to kind of want to drain that way. And then as most of the oil's out, you want to kind of pull this back too, so that it's right underneath there to let it drain the rest of the way. Okay? Okay, I'm going to loosen this up with this particular one is a 14 millimeter, and I'm going to loosen it up so we can get it draining. Okay. That's on there pretty tight. Okay, there we go. Okay, and now that I got it coming, I can do it with my fingers here. Inside this little pan, there's actually a mesh, a plastic mesh screen, so that this thing won't fall in there, but if it does, it's not that big a deal, but that'll stop it from falling in. Okay, so I can go ahead and get the oil coming out. There we go. I'll just leave that in that mesh screen and just wait for that to drain. I usually, just to be sure, let it drain for you'll be able to come back and check on it and see how it's draining. But this thing is 5 quarts, so probably let it drain for a half hour just to make sure. And then, like I said, I'll just slowly move this thing back just to make sure that while I'm away, and then as this slows down, it's going to want to drain straight down, right? It'll slowly start moving back this way, so you got to compensate for that. So as long as I know I'm good there, I can just walk away and let that drain for a while. Okay? Okay, so it's been draining for about 5 minutes. So you can see that it's already getting down to where it's just dribbling out. But I'll just move this thing just to make sure that I'm catching the oil. So where that's falling right down in the center. And I'll just let it run for, again, I could probably close it up now, it'd be fine, but since I'm doing this myself, if you went to get your oil changed somewhere, they're not going to let it drain for a half an hour, right? They're just going to let it drain for 5 minutes and then put that plug back in, and then get you out of there as soon as possible. But since you're doing it yourself, you may as well just let it, get as much of that old oil out of there. Okay? Okay, so it looks like it stopped draining, so now I can get the plug back out, and I can wipe that off. I mean, it's still dripping a little bit, but I think that's good enough. So Just wipe that guy off and put that back in. Make sure you do this though, right? You don't want to get up there. So we're going to take off the oil filter next, but we want to make sure, let's get that plug back in. So that's done. And then we're going to go remove the oil filter. But, you know, you don't want to forget to do this step. You don't want to forget to do this step, and then you start filling it back up with oil and it's draining right out the bottom, right? That would be horrible. So we can tighten this guy back up. Don't have to over tighten it, but that's good, nice and snug. Okay, so that's good. And now I just got to move my drain pan underneath where the oil filter is, which is just right over here in this case. So, and then I'll move the camera for you too. So, okay. So there's my oil filter right there. This is going to be a little bit, probably the hardest part about this whole thing is trying to make it so I can give you a good view of everything while I'm doing it. So I had to even jack up my van just a little bit so that I could get you to see how to change the oil. I probably could have just reached under there without having to do that. But anyway, so that's the oil filter, and I'm just going to try to do it by hand. I think I can just probably reef it off there by hand. They do make oil filter wrenches, and I'll show that to you, but I'm just going to try to do it by hand. I'm not sure if my arms are going to be in the way while I'm doing it, but I'm going to try to get you a view. I'll try, okay? But anyway, we're just going to try to unscrew that, okay? Okay, so I'm going to try to loosen this by hand. It's right up there. Like I said, my arm might get in the way. I might come from the top and try to get a better grip on it. I just got to make sure I position my pan underneath so it's going to catch the oil when the oil starts draining from that. So I'm going to try it and see if I can get it from here. You know what? I'm not. I'm going to go from the top. Let's see here. Not budging. Okay, I'm gonna have to get an oil filter wrench. Okay. Okay, I had to reef on it from the top, but I finally got it loose, so now I can finish loosening it up. Okay, and then it should drip down just a little bit. So I'm removing that guy. A lot of threads on there. Okay, so now it's coming out. All right, there he is. Now I just got to put the new one back in. Looks like a whole lot of oil didn't come out of there because we haven't driven this in a while, and so probably all the oil was down in the pan. So I think if you drive it, you just got to be careful changing your oil because everything's hot through here, right? But I think it would have been easier to actually get the oil filter off if that was hot. Since it's cold, it was a little snug. Okay, so now I'm going to put the new one back on. Okay, so once I removed this, I just turned it upside down and put it on this pan, right, to make sure it drains all the way. I also wanted to show you this because I couldn't tell if I could actually, if I was being able to show you how to loosen this, but this is how this one works. You just slip it on, and then you just turn it that way, right? That's how I was actually able to get it loose. It's really tight on my van, so I just couldn't figure out how to get a good angle for you, but that's all it was. So I just did that. Okay, and that's how I was able to get it loose, and then I just spun it loose the rest of the way with by hand. And then there's lots of threads down inside there, so that's what that looks like. And then, so the way this catcher works is it just has this lid that goes over the top. Okay, and I just have to screw that on and bring that back to the auto parts store and have them recycle it. Okay, so what you want to do when you put the new one back on, you just take it and you actually want to rub some oil on here, okay, on this seal. You just take a small amount of oil, okay, and then just rub it on here. So just make sure that you get a good seal. Okay. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to screw that thing back on. Okay. Again, I think the hardest part of this job is trying to find a view that's going to allow you to be able to see what I'm doing. So hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to go back up there with this guy now that I put that oil on it. And then you just might have to feel for it. Oh, that got right on. Feels good. Okay. Just spinning it down. Okay. And this one's got a nice grip on the end. So I'll be able to just hand tighten it. I just want to tighten it pretty good with my hand. You can use an oil filter wrench, but I don't think it's necessary. Okay, that's on there good. And then I made sure that I put that the nut back in right into my oil pan, so that's good. Now I can just fill it back up with oil. So I'm hoping you can see that, and I hope you're able to see that. It's everything's pretty tight. So this is again why I don't even normally do this myself anymore. There's just there is a nice sense of accomplishment when you do it, but getting that oil filter off of there was tough. Everything's just tight, you know, and so they have a real advantage on you at the place where they change your oil, because they you know, you drive right in and they're working right below you. It's really easy to get at everything when you're doing this yourself in your driveway or whatever. It's a lot harder, and by the time you pay for everything, boy, you're making just a couple dollars an hour for your time, unless you have a nice setup. Then it's your advantage to do this. But if you're doing it in your driveway, you're definitely at a disadvantage. Okay, so now we're going to add the oil in. Here's a dad hack for you. This is just a bottle. I didn't have a funnel, so I'm just going to use, this is a bottle that I cut the bottom off of. Just be careful when you cut this. You don't want any pieces getting down in your engine, right? So make sure there's no it's not rough and stuff's going to fall down inside. But anyway, there we go. So we'll just take that off. Stick that guy right in there. Let me get the oil. And this van takes 5 quarts of oil, and this is 5 quarts. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the majority of it in to start, and then we'll stop and just check to make sure things are good. Start to overflow a little bit, but just take your time. So I'm just going to go ahead. I put almost the whole thing in, probably about a quart left, but I'm just going to go ahead and check the oil just to see where we're at. And then plus, once you drive the car too, that oil filter will actually take some of that too, so you actually want to be over just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so it's still a little bit low. It is showing up on my dipstick though. Okay. Probably lose the funnel now, because I can probably just pour it straight in a lot easier. Okay, so we're getting close. Let me go ahead and check it again. You got to kind of wait for it to drain down too before you can really check it. So you have to, really for yourself to get an accurate reading, this is running down to that pan that I showed you before when I showed you how to check your oil. Okay. So really, you got to wait just a little bit. it's showing up. Boy, it's nice and clean, so it's even hard to see, but it's right at full. But then, like I said, it's gonna, that oil filter is just gonna take a little bit once you actually run the vehicle. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the rest in. It's just a little bit left. Okay, that's just about good. And then just, you know, there's several things that can go wrong here when you change your own oil, even if somebody else changes your oil too, right? So make sure you put the cap back on, right? You leave this off and you drive around and oil's spurting around. That's not good. So make sure you put that back on, okay? And then we wanted to make sure that oil filter, or that oil filter is tight, right? So can just double check it is. And then I before I added that oil, right, had to double check to make sure that plug was in underneath. So all right, so that's about it. I can go ahead and drive around, and then I'll come back and double check to make sure, and I'll check the oil again just to make sure everything's good. But and it's good to do this about every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, right? 3,000 or 5,000 miles. And as I was doing this, so when I showed you how to check your oil in one of my earliest videos, I said that I don't normally do this anymore. And after doing this, I remember why I don't do it, because, you know, there's just a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, doing it in your driveway, they just have an advantage on you, and you can usually get it for $30 to $40. And you know, by the time you get the oil, or you get something to catch it in, have it drained down. Now, see, I got to run that oil back to a place to get it recycled, and then get the oil filter, get the oil. You know, I probably spent $30 on supplies just to do that. So anyway, but at least you know how to do it now. If you wanted to tackle it yourself, just be careful with a hot engine too. You know, if you're reaching up in there, you can definitely burn yourself. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you, and thanks for watching, and God bless you.